In Africa, China has been one of the most active investors in the past decade. From infrastructure to energy development to industrial construction, Chinese companies are present in every corner of Africa, and many countries have therefore ushered in significant development opportunities. However, not all projects are smooth sailing. There is an important cooperation plan that China has reached a cooperation intention with Algeria since 2015, but the project has been repeatedly shelved in the past 10 years and was even abandoned a few years ago. Until today, 10 years later, the project has finally ushered in substantial progress. It is the super steel plant in Algeria. According to the project agreement, a company called Jingdong Steel will invest $500 million to build a modern steel production base in Msila Province, Algeria. In the future, it is expected to become the most influential steel and pipeline manufacturing center in North Africa. But the question is, why has such a potential project been delayed for a full decade? And what far-reaching impact will its implementation bring to Algeria? If you like our video content, please click the subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. Among the many wealthy African countries, Algeria is one of them. It is the largest country in North Africa, with a land area of 2.38 million square kilometers. The complex and diverse geological structure provides good conditions for its rich mineral resources. As far as I know, Algeria's main mineral resources include iron ore, natural gas, oil, and coal. Among them, Algeria has the third largest iron ore reserves in the world, estimated to be more than 2 billion tons. These high-quality iron ores are mainly distributed in the Tajikistan region in the northeast of the country. The local ore grade is extremely high, and the iron content generally reaches more than 63%, which is an ideal smelting raw material. It stands to reason that with such rich iron ore resources, Algeria should have developed the steel industry. But the reality is not the case. For a long time, Algeria's economic focus has been on the oil and gas sector, not the steel industry. According to the information I found, Algeria ranks 15th in the world in terms of oil reserves and 10th in terms of natural gas reserves, making it the world's second largest natural gas exporter. Its proven natural gas reserves are about 415 billion cubic meters, and its oil reserves exceed 1 billion tons. In the first 9 months of 2024 alone, Algeria's oil exports reached about 130 million tons, with an export value of up to $34 billion. At the same time, the annual export volume of liquefied natural gas also reached 11.62 million tons. In contrast, its steel exports are relatively weak, only about 700,000 tons for the whole year. However, this situation is gradually changing. In the past few years, as international oil prices continued to fall from $70 per barrel to $60, Algeria's fiscal revenue has also shrunk significantly. As we all know, oil has always been the country's most core source of foreign exchange. So foreign exchange reserves have also been hit hard, from nearly $120 billion in 2016 to about $90 billion today. At the same time, affected by the economic situation, the national currency has also depreciated by more than 20%. Therefore, in order to get rid of the high dependence on oil exports, the Algerian government, after many rounds of discussions, finally decided to focus on the steel industry, trying to change the current passive situation through this path. However, problems also arise. According to the information I have investigated, Algeria's steel industry originally focused on the export of raw materials, and its capabilities in deep processing and high-end manufacturing were relatively weak. In addition, there were many shortcomings in technology and capital at the time, so it was not easy to promote industrial upgrading. Even so, the Algerian government has introduced a series of support policies to encourage companies to invest in the steel industry, such as providing tax exemptions, loan interest subsidies, etc. For example, for startups recognized by the government, a tax exemption policy of up to 4 years is provided, covering single tax, total income tax, profit tax, and professional behavior tax. If the conditions are met, you can apply for an extension for 1 year. At the same time, Algeria also tried to seek cooperation internationally, hoping that some countries would be willing to help them promote the transformation of this industry. However, due to the reality of high risk and low return, most countries took a wait-and-see attitude. But in 2015, Chinese companies took the initiative to propose cooperation with Algeria, and the two sides formally signed a steel plant cooperation intention agreement. But in the past 10 years, the project has not made any progress. What happened? As we said before, the idea of this super steel plant was put on the agenda as early as 2015. However, China's infrastructure technology was not as mature as it is now, and many large projects were still in the stage of trial and error and accumulation of experience. In addition, the political situation in Algeria was unstable, making it very difficult to promote cooperation. In particular, in 2018, a series of large-scale demonstrations broke out across Algeria, which lasted for more than 280 days and almost swept the country. This long-term social unrest directly led to the stagnation of Algeria's economic development, and many foreign investment projects were stranded. Of course, Algeria's transportation infrastructure was relatively backward at the time. The route design of some main roads did not take into account the distribution of iron or resources at all, and many important mining areas were bypassed. In addition, nearly 85% of the country's land area is covered by the Sahara Desert, and the harsh terrain conditions also make infrastructure construction particularly difficult. So, even if the steel plant was really built that year, there was no way to transport the iron ore there. But in June 2025, China and Algeria restarted this plan that had been shelved for many years and formally signed an agreement to build a super steel plant worth up to $500 million. So what is going on? As far as I know, the total investment of this super steel plant is as high as $500 million, covering an area of about 600 acres. The project site is located in the industrial park of Msila Province, Algeria. The entire construction work will officially start in June 2025 and is expected to be completed in 2026. Once the construction is completed and put into operation, the annual output of this steel plant will reach 500,000 tons of various steel plates and steel pipes. At the same time, this project is expected to create more than 3,000 jobs. In addition, according to the agreement signed by China and Algeria, this super steel plant will be promoted in 2 phases. The first phase is mainly to build a steel plate production line with an annual output of 200,000 tons, giving priority to meeting the needs of the infrastructure field. In the second phase, a high-end steel pipe production system with an annual output of 300,000 tons will be further introduced to increase the added value of products. These products will be mainly used in many key industries, such as construction engineering, energy development, and water conservancy infrastructure in the future. So, what benefits can this super steel plant worth $500 million bring to Algeria? According to my investigation, in order to better integrate the steel plant project into the local economic ecology, about 80% of the raw materials will be purchased locally in Algeria. The destination of the finished products has also been reasonably planned. About half will be sold to other countries as export products, and the remaining half will be supplied to the domestic market to meet internal demand. At the same time, it can also help Algeria gradually reduce its dependence on imported steel. According to data, in 2023 alone, the total amount of steel imported by Algeria will be as high as 15 million tons, mainly from countries such as China, Russia, and Ukraine. Once the steel plant is fully operational, it is expected to reduce Algeria's steel imports by more than 25%. Furthermore, this project also means that Algeria's future development is no longer limited to the oil model, but focuses on development in multiple fields. At the same time, with the influence of this project, more companies from various countries can be attracted to invest, which will help Algeria become a steel manufacturing center in the entire North African region. Of course, China will not make some unrewarding investments. From a resource perspective, China is highly dependent on iron ore. According to the data I found, in 2024 alone, China's total iron ore imports reached 1.237 billion tons, a year-on-year increase of 4.9%, a record high, accounting for 72% of global iron ore imports. By setting up a factory in Algeria, the distance to the iron ore production area can be shortened, which will help lock in a part of the stable iron ore supply and alleviate the problem of import dependence from the source. In addition, China will have the priority to purchase the steel plates and steel pipes produced by this steel plant in the future and enjoy relatively favorable purchase prices. Compared with the international market price, China's procurement costs will be reduced by about 10%, which is undoubtedly good for improving the competitiveness of domestic enterprises. In addition, China's steel industry has long faced the problem of overcapacity. According to data, over the past decade, China's steel capacity utilization rate has basically remained at around 80%, far below the internationally recognized reasonable level of 90%. This time, with the help of this cooperation opportunity in Algeria, China can sell some of its excess steel to Algeria, and Algeria does have a large demand for steel, which is a completely win-win situation. It is worth noting that in addition to the cooperation project of the super steel plant, China and Algeria have also jointly invested in many major projects. For example, the mining iron ore in western Algeria. The total investment of this project is as high as $800 million. The total length of this project is 950 kilometers. It is the largest railway construction project in Algeria's history. This railway will connect the Garage iron ore mine in the remote southwestern area of Algeria with a national railway transportation backbone network, providing convenience for the large-scale transportation of mineral resources in the future. According to the current progress of railway construction, it has been divided into 3 sections and gradually advanced. The first section is from Beecher to Hammagyr, with a total length of about 200 kilometers. At present, all infrastructure, including bridges, have been completed. Secondly, the second section is from El Asser to Tindouf, with a total length of 175 kilometers. At present, the construction of structures and track laying are also progressing steadily. The third section is the longest and largest railway project under construction by China Railway Construction Corporation overseas, with a total of 2 parts. Among them, the section from Hammagyr to El Asser is 440 kilometers, and large-scale civil engineering is underway. At the same time, the 135-kilometer section from Tindouf to Garage is nearing completion, and track laying can be started after the arrival of the rails. Perhaps in the future, more and more Chinese companies will begin to spread across various regions of Africa, helping them develop while also making China's influence in Africa increasingly greater. To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.